Hi, welcome to the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast. I'm your host, Vince. Before we go into the video, please hit that like and subscribe button down below if you enjoy our videos. Let's get right into it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is your boy Vince here, your host, as well as your other boy Russ here. Welcome to today's episode of the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast. We are here to talk about today's topic, the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery. And boy, oh boy, if you got a chance to watch this game, or beg my pardon, not this game, because it was like a game in the lottery, draft picks in this case, you were unbelievably blown away by the results from 1 to 14, but primarily from 1 to 4 or 5. The top 5 picks of this year's 2025 NBA draft lottery is insane, and we're here to talk about it. Now, the cool news with this is only one of us has had the luxury of seeing who these picks actually already unfolded. The other did not get a chance to see it. So today, we're actually going to reveal these top picks for Mr. Russ here. Russ, who do you first? Unfortunately, you already know who the number one pick is, so there's no, say anything about that. And for those who are just now tuning in, we're not going to spoil it for you quite yet. But I want to know, going into the draft lottery, what exactly did you expect that was going to get the number one overall pick, or at least who do you expect was going to be top 3 and top 5?
I'll basically give it to you like this. This is how I took it. I saw a notification about who won the draft lottery, but what I saw first was in the notification bar was Mavs. And I was thinking like, okay, like I didn't realize today was draft lottery day. So I was like, Mavs. I was like, man, probably something else happened. Nico probably traded AD now too, or Kyrie because he tore his ACL. Who knows? This man, he'll do anything. So I see the Mavs thing and I click on it and I'm like, all right, like, okay, let's click on it. And so I click on it and I see Mavs got the number one pick and I'm like blinking for a second. I'm like, wait, does that mean that they get Cooper Flagg? And so I'm thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, the NBA is definitely rigged.
Oh my God. Yes, I definitely thought the same. So since we're going right into it, let's just go ahead and reveal the top 14 picks. But before we do, what I wanted to do real quick, just for the audience, let's really look at the odds here that we had the luxury of seeing. Now, because the order has already been set, right? They're not going to show what the original order was. So we're going to have to go off of Google University. Now, the team in this league's worst record was the Utah Jazz, right? Now, like me, I actually thought Utah had a very good shot at getting the number one pick. I mean, the storylines that we were hearing left and right were perfect, right? You got Cooper Flagg, the projected number one overall pick, this amazingly talented, tall, ready to really ready to go in the league right now player, and he's kind of considered like the great white hope again, right? You got a team like the Utah Jazz, Mormon City. They're known for having some of the best white players, and there's no disrespect to white players, right? We're Laker fans. We love us some Luka Doncic and some Austin Reeves. There's no shade at all, but you can see the storyline really going for the Jazz to get that number one pick. And then you also looked at the Wizards, who had the second best odds with the second worst league record for this season. And when you really look at the Wizards, they haven't had a number one pick in quite some time. In fact, here's a crazy stat, Russ, in case you didn't know. The Utah Jazz have never actually gotten a number one overall pick ever in the history of their franchise. The last time they even had a top 2 or top 3 pick was in 1980 when they picked up Daryl Griffith. You're going to have to look that name up, folks, because a lot of us were not even a thought back in that day. But the last time the Wizards got the number one overall pick was in 2010. We're talking 15 years ago. Do you remember who that player was?
Wait. Yeah, Bradley Beal.
I'll give you a hint.
Oh yeah, John Wall.
Yes,
John
sir. Mr. John
Wall.
Wall. John Wall was the last number one overall pick for the Wizards. Prior to that, they've steadily been somewhere between, I want to say, 2 and like 15. They've always been the draft lottery, but they've never really had a number one pick, at least since 2010. And then you look at the Charlotte Hornets with the third best odds. They haven't had a number one overall pick since 1991. Larry Johnson from shout out UNLV out here in Vegas, man. And you know what's funny? When I thought about this, we often talked a lot about the worst teams and how bad they've been and how if you're a number one overall pick with the prospect like Cooper Flagg, who would you least want to go to? One could argue Philly, which I'll go into in a second. But man, I looked into the Charlotte Hornets draft odds, bro, and I am telling you right now, it is so bad. Okay. Like when I say bad, I mean bad. Let's go into the history once again. Okay. We're going to go all the way back to 1991. Yes, they got Larry
Wait. The
Bird,
Hornets?
the Hornets, right? We're gonna
Wait.
talk about
I mean, shoot, they got LaMelo. That's not that bad.
no. I'm talking like let's see what they really did with what like some of their woes in terms of the picks that they've done. Not to piss on the the Charlotte Hornets, party, but they've been known to make some very questionable picks in the past. Okay, let's kind of start with we'll just kind of start most recent. So 2022, they had picked up Jalen Duren, right, the starting center for the Detroit Pistons, and traded him away. Not so good, right? Now let's kind of scroll down. Yes, they got LaMelo Ball in 2020. Okay, but let's talk about 2018. Guess who they picked up? This year's MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And guess what they did with that pick?
Traded to the
Traded it
Clippers?
away to the Clippers. Yes, nobody even remembers that. I looked into that.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Holy, dude! I honestly, dude, if a lot of people didn't know, I mean, because like I honestly kind of forgot that Paul George was the one who got like in that deal for Shea to go to OKC. Think about that. Okay, that's crazy because
Yes.
wait,
Yes.
hold on a
The
second.
The Hornets with the 11th overall pick in the 2018 draft selected Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and traded him to the Clippers. Insane.
I
Insane.
mean,
Now,
not like you could have known, but that sucks.
oh, yeah. And let's keep going. 2012, with the number 2 overall pick, they chose Michael Kidd Gilchrist from the Kentucky Wildcats. You know who was in that draft outside of Anthony Davis?
Wait, what
Draymond
year? What
Green,
year? What year?
2012. So the
Oh,
most
Draymond
notable
Green
players
got. Oh
they
no,
could they could have had they could have had Bradley Beal, Andre Drummond, Draymond Green, uh, Chris Middleton, but here's one they really could have got: Damian Lillard.
I
They
mean,
could have
yeah.
had any of those players and opted to go with Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Mister, his jump shot was, bro. Come on now,
Was it
come
worse
on
than
now.
Lamelo? Was it worse than Lonzo's?
Bro, it was 1,000 times worse. In fact, it was so bad that there was no coming back. At least Lonzo was able to at least fix progressively over the seasons. He was able to fix it to have a respectable jump shot. Michaels, oh yeah, there was not a chance. Not a chance at all. Not a chance at all. Yeah, not a chance at all. But I mean, bro, like it's insane. And again, that's just to go into that, right? Now we also
That's
talk about
crazy.
yeah. And now we also talk about, we're going to skip over the Pelicans because, I mean, look, the Pelicans, we all are aware, 2020, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2020 or 2020. No, 2019. There we go. 2019, they picked up
Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson. We've already seen the story with that. So we don't want to, we don't want to go too much into that.
Hey,
But the
before we move on to that though,
yeah.
is it New Orleans and that Southern cooking, or is it just coincidence?
Say
Like
that again?
why Zion going to the New Orleans Pelicans could have been the
Yeah.
worst thing for his career.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, bro.
But going south, especially to New Orleans, I'm telling you, that gumbo, that jambalaya, man, is good. It's too good.
Oh, yeah. No,
Hard to
absolutely.
resist.
Yeah, and then here's a crazy thing real quick so we can speed up to the actual pick reveal. So the 76ers, man, they have had a crazy draft lottery luck. So they had a 10.5% chance of getting in the number 1 overall pick in this draft. Obviously, we know now they didn't get it, but when I reveal to you what position they got in, you will still be surprised. What they've done the past 15 years, respectfully, they've had the number 1 overall pick in 2017, Markelle Fultz. Right. There was questions about that, obviously now, but at the time it was like a consistent number 1 overall pick out of the University of Washington. Arguably, they should have easily got Jason Tatum. They could have got a number of other greater players in that draft. De'Aaron Fox. And then also 2016, they got Ben Simmons, number one overall pick. They had back-to-back years with the number one overall pick. Crazy odds. Then you had 2014, they had the number 3 overall pick with Joel Embiid. But prior and since then, they haven't been really in the top 4, top 5 since. So, with that being said, let's get right into the reveal, my guy, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, when I saw the results of this, oh my lord, I was just kind of like, let me tell you this. I had to watch this at work towards the end of my shift, and I was just sitting here like, bro, who's gonna get it? If it's not Utah, like I thought, I don't know who it could be. Like, I really don't. So for me to
Dude,
literally
yeah.
see these results, I'm just sitting here like, bro, you got to be kidding me. So without a doubt, here's the reveal of your 2025 top 14 picks. And
Ooh,
oh
baby.
my goodness, let's talk about this. Number one, obviously, you got Dallas Mavericks. And oh my lord, let's just talk about this for now. Can you talk about a conspiracy theorist? How many times have we talked about when Luka
Everybody put on your tinfoil hats. Everybody get your great grandma out here because she got the conspiracies rolling.
I'm
Vince,
telling you right
what do we
now,
got?
bro, from the moment they traded Luka, constantly for the past 3 months now, the Mavericks have been a laughing stock of a franchise. Their fans have turned against them. They have chanted "Fire Nico" every single corner of the world. In fact, it got to the point where you have this famous guy. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but I know you know what I'm talking about. He's on all these network platforms, talking about how they need to do a petition because of what the Mavericks did to to Luka Doncic since he didn't want to go, right? And now here you got a crazy just situation here. You got Anthony Davus, who's going to come back next season healthy. You got PJ Washington, Derek Lively Jr. You got, or beg my pardon, the third. I think Junior third. I don't know. You got Gafford in his situation. He's more than likely possibly coming back. Even if not, I mean, shoot, you're talking about replacing Luka Doncic with Cooper Flagg because I think it's pretty obvious they're picking Cooper Flagg with the number one overall pick. But let's talk about the odds, okay? The Mavericks had a 1.80% of getting the number one pick. The last time a team had odds that small was 2008. The Chicago Bulls had 1.7% odds. The Cavaliers in 2014 had 1.7% odds, and the Magic had 1.52% odds in 1993. This is the reason why. Oh, and let me not mention the Cavs had a 2.8% in 2011, the year after LeBron left. This is the reason why we call conspiracy on these draft lotteries, okay?
Wait,
Because
hold
for
up.
one, go ahead.
Well, yeah, wait, no, now I gotta say, now you got. I just want to say something really quick before you move on. But
Now
number
go
one,
ahead.
what? So
Oh,
the
yeah, go
the
ahead.
the one thing that I thought was weird was is that like less than a week ago we got a notification saying because you know that thing about conspiracy about the Mavericks and how the NBA gave this stimulus package to LeBron or moving Luka to the big market team. Well, they were like, well, that's because they're moving Dallas to Las Vegas. Okay. Now they got a preseason game that they want the Lakers and the Mavs to play in Vegas because obviously that's where the preseason games are at. But to
Mm-hmm.
me, it's just like, are they test running it out and seeing, like what it's like in Vegas between those two teams, seeing what kind of attraction? If they're bringing their toppest, like the top attraction to Vegas and seeing what it looks like, I don't know. To me, it still kind of seems like in the future, I wouldn't even be that surprised if the Mavericks went and moved to Las Vegas. It's not crazy to
Well,
me. Now that Cooper Flagg's there, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, these days we definitely don't know what to expect because even as the Mavericks representative was taking that number one overall card from the commissioner, one of the things that he mentioned to make a point was that Dallas was about championships. Dallas was about winning. He really put an emphasis on Dallas basketball, meaning that they're trying to keep the team in Dallas. Now, we don't know if this is legit. We don't know if he's just trying to save face like a lot of people tend to do. But at the same time, he did try to make an emphasis on that. But let's talk about this real quick before we move on to another team that really just kind of surprised me as we look at this list here together. The fact that again, you get rid of your franchise player Luka Doncic, who was extension eligible. It's very commonly known at this point he was gonna sign that extension to make over $300+ million, but there was lots of questions about how good he can really be, and they're legit questions, right? Now we can't really judge too much on his performance this year because he had injuries. He did come off of. He also did have to go through a very emotional situation with him being traded out of nowhere to the Los Angeles Lakers. Although it's a really good situation for him for the future, it was not something he predicted at all. And so one could argue this was kind of like a gap year for him, a year where he can just reflect on everything. He can get in the gym, get in shape, and hopefully have a much better 2025, 2026 season. But when we talk about the franchise, right, the franchise player, we got to really ask ourselves, now that Dallas was able to get the number one overall pick, what do they do with it? It's easy for us to say they can get Cooper Flagg, but there's been a lot of rumors, right? You got some big name players that are going to be hitting free agency, if not also in the trade market this offseason, like a Giannis in this case. One could argue they could package that pick and go get a Giannis, right? I know there was a lots of talks about the Spurs. If the Spurs had the number one overall pick, they could go ahead and trade that over to get a Giannis as well. One could argue
Mm.
the Spurs are in a great situation to still do that, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you know what's crazy? With them getting the number one pick, say they get Cooper. Do you think that this is enough for us, for the franchise to be able to in some ways be forgiven, not just by their fans, but be forgiven for the way that they treated Luka, be forgiven for the last 3 months, 2.5 months, give or take, the fans have had to deal with basically the heist that the Lakers got out of getting the Luka trade done. Do you think that this is enough for Mavs fans to no longer turn on the Mavs organizations, but to at least have something to look forward to for the future? What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, what are we talking about here, Vince? I need to see your face here. I mean, the Mavs were already when we saw Kyrie without AD play the Lakers, because we saw both. We saw Kyrie without AD and we saw AD without Kyrie, right? Regular season. Um, both games they did pretty good. I mean, Luka going back to Dallas kind of skews kind of like regular season games because that was his first time going back to Dallas. The whole emotional thing, that's going to be a game that we're going to remember forever, honestly. But Kyrie without AD, they did really well because we know Kyrie is a baller. They haven't got the Mavs fans have not gotten that full package yet where they got to see KD. KD. Let's not hope KD goes there.
Hey, you never know. He's in the rumors too.
Kyrie. They have not seen Kyrie or AD together at the same time against the Lakers.
True,
They've
but
seen Kyrie.
half.
Hmm?
We've only seen them play together for a half, and it was a really good half against the Rockets. Sure.
Exactly. And now they're gonna have Cooper Flagg. Now, yeah, Kyrie's not gonna be there till the end of the year, or maybe earlier a little bit, or maybe a little later, or maybe he doesn't even play all next season. Who knows? But it's gonna be interesting. But I mean, either way, let's see what Cooper Flagg's made about. I mean, I saw Jaime Vasquez Jr. on the Miami Heat making a direct impact the first year. I think it was last year he came. Dude was, I think, running for Rookie of the Year, and he was really good. I was like, man, I wish we got a rookie like that. Then we get Dalton Connect at number 17, and we don't even play him in the playoffs, but different story, different day. I just think that the Mavs haven't gotten that chance to see Kyrie and AD, and now it's not like they have to give away Cooper Flagg and trade. Like, it's not like they have to give away their good players or whoever to get him, right? They just sign him and they get to keep their team, right? They'll probably drop off the like lower end people who don't make as much money and who weren't impacting the team. But I mean, eventually, are we not going to see Kyrie, AD, and Cooper Flagg and the tall towers of Daniel Gafford and who's the other guy? Yeah. I mean, are we not destined to see that? Because That might be world beaters right there. That's what the Lakers won in 2020 with bigs. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, let's see what Cooper Flagg's about. But what is he like? Is he a pretty big boy, huh? He
Yeah,
doesn't
I
look
think
like he.
Cooper's about somewhere between 6'8" and 6'9", but he's got guard handles, a sweet stroke. He can get around all around the court. He can literally score in all three phases. And one
All
thing that I
right,
really loved about what he said in his interview after revealing that the Mavs got the number one overall pick was they talked a lot about how Nico Harrison had mentioned that he wanted his players on the team to be defensive oriented. So they asked Cooper about that, and he said since about 4 years old, I believe, or fourth grade or whatever it was, he's been
don't tell
always
me.
a two-way player. Now, of
Oh
course,
man,
that's something you want to hear, right, from a potential number one overall pick. But we've also seen in college as well as, in high school when he was projected potential number one overall, that he's very capable of playing on both ways. What I can definitely say is the Mavs, I think that again, this is why we say it's a conspiracy, man, because you don't go literally the direct year after getting rid of your franchise player when he was extension eligible to getting a Cooper Flag and winning the sweepstakes with a 1.6% odds. That is wild.
mm.
That's all I'm going to say, bro. That's all I got to say for this topic. But here's another crazy thing to bring up real quick, man, just so we can move this along. Let's really talk about the Spurs, okay? Because the Spurs are in a very unique
Oh my bad.
situation. Okay. No, you're good. I got you. So the Spurs are in a unique situation. Now, we've had rumors recently where they are going to be in the Giannis sweepstakes. What that means is basically, Giannis is more open to possibly being traded from the Milwaukee Bucks than he was before. He's 30 years old. He's under contract for at least another 3 to 4 years. And easily he's still in his prime, right? We just saw the past like 3 or 4 seasons since they've last won the championship in 2021. He's averaged like 30, 13, and like 6. Those are very, very great numbers. But the players around him just haven't really panned out. You got Damian Lillard, unfortunately, tore his Achilles. He's going to be out pretty much for all of next year. They traded away Chris Middleton, who arguably was the heartbeat of the team. Obviously, they got rid of, Holiday a year ago, and we saw what that resulted in, making the Celtics a lot stronger. So for the Bucks, they're not really in a good direction or position really to keep Giannis when he clearly wants to win a championship. But when you look at the Spurs, one of the things that we're talked about is if the Spurs get the number one overall pick, could they use that as a solid draft compensation for the Bucks in order to obtain a Giannis? But now, with them getting the second and the 14th overall pick here, as we can see towards the bottom of the screen, one could argue they could still do that and package, say, a Castle, which I know, Spurs fans, you don't want to get rid of Castle, but if you can get Giannis for a rookie of the year candidate and just some picks, and then maybe, work, your magic in terms of getting the salary to make sense, you can do that, right? The Spurs, man, the crazy thing about the Spurs, it just seems like the Spurs always win. I don't know what it is. It's like they got Duncan in 1997. They go on this long run of winning and winning and winning culture. Then they get Kawhi and they win some more. And then suddenly Kawhi leaves and now their winnings starting to go down a little bit. But it's okay. Insert Victor Wembanyama, right? And then guess what? The following year, now they got the reigning NBA Rookie of the Year, Castle. And so now you pair those two up with the De'Aaron Fox that just came during the trade deadline. And you got CP3, who, although he's in his later years of his career, easily is somebody you want on your team just to help out the young guys get better, in-game IQ. He's almost like a coach extension, but just on your bench, and he can still give you some level of production. To me, the Spurs are set up not just for the next 10 years, but they're set up to be successful right now. So the Spurs are in a very unique situation. I'm very excited to see what they do in the offseason, what they do with their picks. Do they actually select these? Do they trade, some of these picks to get better players on the roster so they can win now? Because Victor, outside of his injury, arguably he's ready to win right now. Going into his third season, he easily should have got Defensive Player of the Year this year had he not gotten injured and, got disqualified. But man, the Spurs, they just keep on winning. And I, as a Laker fan, I hate to see it because we got to deal with them.
Hey, what if Victor Wembanyama never played another game of basketball? Would that be crazy? What if the blood clots became so bad that he never played another game?
Whoa, let's
Think
not
about
even
that.
wishful think that, my guy.
No,
I'll
I'm
tell you
just saying, could you imagine just because it's happened before? I mean, we just saw Damian Lillard with the blood clots. You can't. I watched Chris Bosh at the end of the Miami Heat, Magic run there for 4 years. Think he was gonna keep coming back and playing. And dude, the thing is he wanted to come as much as he wanted to come back and play. They literally said he was gonna basically die if he kept playing, and
Mhm.
he kept going in and out, but in a very short stint of time. I mean, is this something to worry about for real?
No, that's a solid question because one thing that we have to also take notice, and we are not doctors, obviously, we don't really know much, but what I grew up knowing and learning is the taller you are, the shorter your lifespan tends to be because of the amount of blood flow that your body has to distribute. And so one could argue the reason why Damian Lillard was able to recover quicker with his blood clots because he's a lot smaller than say a 7'3", 7'4" center, Victor Wembanyama. And, obviously that is definitely a legitimate question to ask. Now we're not obviously, and I know you agree with this, we're not ever wishing anything upon any players. I
No.
don't ever want to assume anything at all either, but it is a legit question to wonder about because it is something that the league is not necessarily sharing as much information in terms of his progression right now. But obviously, if it is a problem, hey, you got the number 2 overall pick and the 14 overall pick. One could argue this is your safe phase. Go get Giannis. And worst case comes, if for some reason something happens to Victor, you still have a solid franchise player and it is the Spurs we're talking about. The Spurs are a world-class organization. You still got Popovich there helming in
Oh
the
yeah. Oh
president's
yeah.
position, and you still have the legends as well, especially the bigs that we're talking about, like Tim Duncan. I mean, come on, you know what I'm saying? So either way, the Spurs, I
Yeah.
feel like the Spurs are like one of those very small organizations that you can trust will figure out a way to
Yeah.
still come up on top.
Yeah, the Spurs, they got a package ready for the Bucks, man. They're gonna say Castle, the number 2 pick and 14th pick, and if they really want to, El Jefe, he's coming too.
Yes, sir. Hey, real quick, man, we're not going to talk too much about this one, but man, let's talk about it. Utah, y'all have the worst record of the NBA, and you slid from the number 1 overall to the 5th overall. It's got to suck to be a Jazz fan. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you why. Because arguably this year's draft lottery is really the top 4 heavy, and then it's everybody else other than that, right? Now, not to say that there aren't still
Mhm.
great prospects outside of the top 4, but for you guys to go from number 1 to number 5, that one's gotta hurt. And in some ways, if you think about it, ever since they made the draft lottery odds percentage thing instead of just, oh, the team that gets the worst record gets the number 1 pick to try to combat tanking and things of that nature, you gotta wonder, like, do you actually want to be the number 1 worst team record-wise in the league? Because I'm pretty sure since they've done these odds, the team with the worst record has not actually ever won the number 1 overall pick since they've changed it. It's always often gone, as weird as it is, to a team that we really don't expect. Like, you ever think
I
about that?
mean, yeah. The thing is the Dallas Mavericks were in the plan and won one of the plans, right? Didn't they win the first plan and then
Uh,
lost the second plan,
they did. Yes, they did. Yep.
and then they got number 1 pick? This is Adam Silver, man. You better
Hey,
learn some Chinese, brother.
hey, hey. I mean, again, I'm just saying, bro. At this point, nothing would surprise me, man. The NBA's got to make the money
Utah was
somehow.
number 1. Utah was number 1 literally within 5 years ago. I want to say within 5 years ago, Utah was number 1. Weren't they with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and um
Like the number
gosh,
1 overall seed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty
Isn't
sure
that
that was.
crazy to see them?
Yeah, I think that was like 20. What year was that? Was that
What
2020? Was that 2019?
what year was Donovan
I can't remember.
Mitchell?
But it is ironic that that same Utah Jazz that were number 1 overall, and everybody was talking about.
2017 to 2022.
There we go. Yep. It is funny though and ironic that that number 1 seed, Utah Jazz led by Donovan Mitchell went home early, and as we look at the Cavs, they're pretty much gonna go home early. We'll talk about that in a different video. But just focusing back on the Jazz, man, I mean, at this point, you gotta kinda wonder, like, shoot, at this point, like, who are they gonna pick? I mean, arguably, I think that in terms of who they are going to pick if they keep it, it's not going to be a big. I think that they have their big of the future with Kessler, Filipowski, and obviously Marketing, unless they're looking to trade one of those players in the offseason. I think that arguably they're for sure going to go find themselves a wing because you have some solid guards that you can kind of interchange with offensively, defensively. But regardless, man, that's a crazy thing I noticed. They dropped from the first overall pick to the fifth. And then real quick here, let's go to the Sixers, man. Now, in case you weren't aware, the Sixers had a top 6 pick protection. If it fell to the 7th overall pick, it was going to go to the Thunder. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, again, as a Laker fan in the West who has to deal with all these great West teams on a consistent basis, there is no way in hell I wanted the Sixers to drop below 7th. I'm so tired of the Thunder getting all these great picks and getting all these
Mm-hmm.
great players and just
Mm-hmm.
basically doing whatever they want. Okay, we need
Mm-hmm.
to just pump the brakes, Thunder. Okay, you already got the MVP of this year. You got Jalen Williams. You got Chet Holmgren. You got a great future as it is. You arguably could go in the offseason and go get another player or two if you want. I mean, at this point, you guys have so many picks that it's just like, bro, can you start giving them away? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm so glad that the Sixers were able to get their pick, but for them to get in the top 4 and then to still come out with number 3 is huge. Now, I don't agree with the tanking that they did, but at the same time, I understand it because you don't want to see them have to give up their draft pick away to the Thunder. And for them to get the 3rd pick is a solid 3rd pick. They can address a lot of different things. I think for sure they're probably going to go ahead and get the guard. They're not going to get, well, obviously can't get Cooper. They're not going to get the big also from Duke. More than likely, they're going to get one of the guards or the forwards that are top in this year's draft. Because that's definitely a need that they need, especially with Paul George's injury all the time. And then they don't really have a solid wing to pair for the most part with him. You already got some solid guards with Maxey, as well as the Jared, I believe. Yeah, McCain. So really what you need is you need some size. You need some size, some solid wing perimeter 3-and-D players, and there's definitely that going to be there available at the 3rd overall pick. But yeah, man, I'm happy for the Sixers. I hope they can actually do well with this pick and come back next offseason or been part of next regular season and actually fulfill what a lot of us thought they were going to get and do this season, which is make it to at least the 2nd round and possibly the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, the 76ers, man, they I mean, we had even Tyrese Maxey who was talking to Joel Embiid. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, he's like what is it? Is it his like 3rd year in the league, 4th year in the league? How many years has he been in the league?
Tyrese has been in the league, I want to say we're in 2025. I want to say for at least 3 years now.
He already be going up to Joel Embiid in the locker room being like, "Hey, bro, what's going on? Like, you're like not trying, not caring, not showing up on time or whatever." He was saying something like that at the beginning of the year because everyone had high hopes for the Joel Embiid, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh,
come to realize he actually needed.
Correction. So it was actually 2020. So Tyrese Maxey was drafted in 2020 during the COVID year. That's why I couldn't really remember well. But yeah.
I still think, I mean, when did Joel Embiid come into the league?
Joel came into the league in 2014. So he's been in the league for 11 years now, which is crazy because the way he plays and all of his injuries, it's almost like you feel like he's been playing for like 15 years and he's about to retire. like seriously.
No, for sure. I mean, the thing is we have recency bias. At least maybe not we, but a lot of people have recency bias. And right now you're seeing him hurt, but the dude was just an MVP 2 seasons ago. So we watched James Harden, who is now, I'm trying to think. He's on the Clippers now, but James Harden gave Joel Embiid a like Rolex or something like that for Joel Embiid's like MVP. But it goes to show you that the Sixers, they had a lot of hopes, but really Tyrese Maxey was getting on Joel Embiid for like not doing his part, you know. Well,
Yeah.
then Joel Embiid actually needed a second surgery or something like that on the knee, and so I mean, like you gotta kind of feel bad for this guy because like he's a big dude, a really heavy dude, I'm sure, probably bad on the knees when he's jumping. I mean, for the Sixers to get third, they got something to work with here. I mean, is the third pick bad, or is it just is
The
there
top
something
four,
coming?
the top four are the most coveted picks for this year's draft. They got third.
Mm,
They're good. In fact,
okay.
I actually think getting third is the best for them because now you don't have the pressure of possibly finding Joel's potential replacement with that center from Duke, who was arguably going to be the fourth of the four best players in this draft. You can legitimately go get
Mm,
a solid wing, even with Cooper Flagg going number one overall. So the Sixers are actually sitting pretty. There's a lot of things they can do. And who's to say they don't, again, shop that pick away? Because a lot of things that people don't realize is a lot of these draft picks, a lot of times, sometimes the teams don't actually pick them. We've seen in histories that some of these teams who get a top pick will trade that pick for future draft capital or for a player that can help that team win now. So it's definitely
mm-hmm,
something to pay attention to because we're not guaranteed that this lottery or top 14 picks are going to be the exact order that's obviously going to happen. I personally do feel like outside of the whole thing going on with the Spurs, I actually do think for the most part that this is going to be the at least top 5, maybe even I'd say like top 6, right? But after that, I
mm-hmm.
can't fully make an argument that all these other teams are going to actually make their selections. They may actually trade some of these picks or some of these players for say a pick that's behind them and then also future picks in the future. But real quick, man, here's the last thing I wanted to bring up because I had to think about this the moment I saw the Dallas Mavericks get the number 1 overall pick. We got to talk about this, man. The freaking West just keeps getting wild every freaking time, bro. I just sit here and think to myself, all the times that these big name players are in the market, what teams do they often end up going to? The West. Every time we talk about a top pick that could be life changing, game changing, where do they go? The West. I am so tired of literally being a Laker fan in the West, hoping and praying that we can literally make a run and win the title just to see all these other teams coming up while our teams are either stagnant or when we think that we're going to do something, we fold. So to me, I had to talk about this with you, bro. I am so tired of the West being stacked. Arguably, there are so many players that aren't even all-stars right now in the West that if they go to the East, instantly an all-star. I am so tired. And they wonder why the ratings are bad. This is why. It's literally all you got to do is watch the West Coast teams play with each other, and that's it. If it's not that, okay, the West Coast can play maybe the top 4 at the best, top 5, top 6 of the East. Everybody else are bottom feeders. It's ridiculous. Like, I was hoping, praying that Charlotte got the number 1 overall pick, even though I really knew that they didn't have a chance. I was hoping and praying even Philly got the number 1 overall pick. It didn't happen. The damn Dallas Mavericks got the number 1 overall pick. Now we got to deal with the Mavs. And you know what? Luka, I know Luka probably going to see this video. We still working on the subscribers. We still working on the views. But you know what? I hope one day, Luka, you see this. We believe in you as Laker fans. You had all the excuses to just kind of let this year flow. Okay? You got an off season to put some work in, off season to get your health back, get into shape. You got an off season to work with arguably the greatest player of all time, LeBron James, to get integrated with the system, integrated with the players, put your 2 cents in on who you want to play with. You have literally next season to be extra motivated. The things that the Mavericks said about you as an organization, what Nico said, what the new ownership said, all those things, man. I understand you were going through it emotionally. I understand that you were going through it physically. I'll give you a pass this season, Luka. You still really did good offensively. Defensively, I'm sorry, you were trash. You were. You were trash, bro. You were trash. But you know what? You're 26. You're going to year 8. You know, some of the greatest players in history have won a championship in year 8. LeBron James being one of them. I'm telling you, bro. Luka Doncic, man. They trying to replace your butt. They got Cooper Flagg waiting. I guarantee you, they are gonna literally erase you from existence, bro. You better not let them. You better not
That
let them do you that way.
that's like when your girlfriend tells you he's just a friend, and then you break up, and then she ends up finding that same dude who you were like, nah, he's just a friend, and then
Oh
like,
my god!
and then be like, you just got to be sitting there from the shadows watching like your girlfriend, and it's like you're that sad lonely puppy on the outside who just got kicked out for the new puppy, you're watching the new family through their living room window. You're out in the rain, and you're watching the family inside like pet the little new puppy. You gotten
Oh
old
my!
now. You're old and you're slow, Luka. And now you got the new puppy and
The
Cooper
new hot
Flag.
thing.
Yeah,
You
exactly. And
posted
so
on Instagram. Just wait. When they make that
just wait,
selection in June, he's gonna be all over the Mavericks
wait,
Instagram.
yeah, wait. The thing is he doesn't even have to be good offensively. As long as he plays defense, there's going to be shots. I can't. I don't know who exactly runs the Dallas Mavericks social media, but I believe it's a girl, and I believe she's nice. I think that's the reason why the tribute video was so nice, because the whole Mavericks organization was actually really they loved Luka. I don't believe this whole thing about Nico Harrison not knowing the how big Luka Doncic was and how much he meant to the fans. Like, bro, come
Hey,
on, like
what is
whatever.
this? What is this?
L.A.
Cap. No, it's Cap.
Oh.
That's what it is. It's Cap. Okay. There's no way Nico did not know that. Okay. He definitely did. But it's ironic it says LA because we still got Luka. We still got the future. Hopefully we sign him to that extension in August. But man, oh man, I'm
So
telling you, bro.
the West
I'm
is just getting
telling you.
wild, bro.
It's getting ridiculous. And you know what, man? I'm here for it. I'm here for it because we got no choice. Okay. I'm a lifelong Laker fan. Even when LeBron leaves, guess what? I'm always going to be a Laker fan. I was a Laker fan since the Kobe days. I got my first jersey at 6 years old. I've been a fan for 22 years and counting and will never change. Okay. So for me, we have a bright future, but at the same time, man, the West has a bright future, and that scares me. The teams at the bottom, not going to be on the bottom. The teams at the top, I don't know. One could argue they ain't going to be at the top. So it's very interesting to see what's going on in the West. The East, man, it's frustrating because I just don't understand it. The league is constantly talking about how the viewership's gone down. And one could argue this is the reason why, because there's not much excitement outside of really the top. Well, before was the top 4 teams, but this season has really been the top 5 teams, counting Detroit, because Detroit has had an amazing season this year. But outside of that, everybody else are bottom feeders, and it doesn't really look like that's going to change. And if Giannis comes out here in the West as well, Lord have mercy. Look,
Oh my
let's
God.
go ahead and end the video on that one. With that being said, you guys, again, I'm your host, Vince. This is your host, Russ, here, man. We're here to bring out some really good sports news, especially NBA, while we can. If you guys are not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy the video, hit a like down below and share with your friends as well. For those who are not aware of what the heck just happened today in the draft lottery, let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts were. Who did you think was going to be getting the #1 overall pick? And what do you think about the Dallas Mavericks theory, right? This conspiracy theory of them getting the #1 overall pick after just getting rid of Luka Doncic. I mean, it's insane. But outside of that, man, we appreciate your time. Y'all stay safe. Till next one. Salute.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast, where we bring you the hottest NBA moments, discussions, and everything in between. If you like today's show, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a Courtside Podcast again.